Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ritual. My name is Amy Harvey and I am super excited for this week's episode. This is about a topic that I am extremely interested in learning more, always more, and that is about Norse paganism. Such a big topic, but I am speaking to Jacob, who has a YouTube channel called The Wisdom of Odin, and he is just an absolute wealth of knowledge on this topic. Really fun to talk to, and I think especially if you are really interested in Norse mythology, Norse paganism, this one's going to be a really good one for you. And it's just, Jacob was really fun to chat with. I think maybe majority of the time we were just kind of rambling on about something else, but it was a pretty good one. And I feel like I could talk with him again because, like I said, it's such a big topic and we really just covered the surface level stuff. So maybe we'll have to get him back. But I hope you enjoy my chat with Jacob and all things Norse paganism. So I would just firstly like to start this episode by saying I have a cold and I sound as though I have socks stuffed up my nose, but I just want to let you know that they aren't there. So if I am coughing and spluttering and all of that, I do apologize. So just ignore it and pretend that, you know, it's just like a bit of ambience for today. But I just wanted to let you know I don't normally sound like this. But today I'm actually very excited. I have always had a very, very deep interest in Norse mythology. I find the whole pathway of Norse paganism very interesting. And obviously I'm like a lot of people, I've watched Vikings, I've watched Ragnarok, I've done all of that. But I always wanted to know more, because obviously you watch shows and they like to make it very dramatic and whatever. So I've always had this thirst for knowledge and I was looking around trying to find, just learn more about it. And I found this YouTube channel and there was this guy on there and he was such a gun because you hear people who teach about even like witchcraft. Sometimes they can be very serious, very I don't know, not the most engaging, but he had this channel that was like every single video was just so engaging. He had such a really good way to teach and I just totally loved it. And I know that a lot of you guys are also really interested in Norse paganism. So I had to get him on the show. And so right now I am sitting here with Jacob from the Wisdom of Odin. Hello, Jacob.
Hello. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what to say after all that flattery. I appreciate it. No, I was thinking, honestly, when you said Vikings, I was like, well, you have a good connection to it because Travis Fimmel's from
I know, right?
He's hiding in the bush somewhere out there.
He is. No one knows where he is. He's completely disappeared now. But as soon as I found that out, I was like, fuck yeah, we've got Ragnar. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to chat with you. Now, where are you? You're in America, but whereabouts are you?
So I'm in the place most people would never expect any Norse pagan YouTuber to come from. I am in Kentucky, which this is always fun. Do you what when I say Kentucky, what do you know about Kentucky?
I know, obviously there's the KFC reference.
Right.
I know you have don't you have a big Kentucky Derby?
Yep. Horses are big.
And that's about it.
Yep, that's usually it. I'm impressed you knew about the horses. This last summer when I was in Germany, anytime I said I was from Kentucky, they would always be like, oh, KFC.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you. So it's nighttime for you and morning for me. So I appreciate you taking some time out from your night to chat with me. But the way I like to start every episode is by asking, what is your morning ritual? And this could be, I guess, magic, like Norse kind of ritual, or just mundane, a bit of both. But how do you like to start your day?
Okay, so we're gonna go down the rabbit hole right away. So
Do it.
because I think a good example was like today. So I went to go see my family, who isn't pagan by any means, traditionally Christian, and for me, I feel like dreams are slept on a lot. Like, pardon the pun, but like literally, because I feel like once you start opening yourself up to the energies of the world, no matter what you call those energies, your dreams start making more of a connection when you first wake up.
Yeah.
And so I have found the more I have followed this path, the more my dreams have become clear. And so I usually spend the first 10, 15 minutes of my day reflecting on what my dream meant. Now, am I finding the answers to the universe in my dreams? No, and I don't think you will. But I think they give you an answer of what your mindset is going into that day, almost like a divination right away.
Yes, I totally agree, because often I will look back at my dreams and at the time I go, whatever. But then maybe a week later I'll go, whoa, it was there all along. Like it was playing in my subconscious, and it came out in some weird abstract way. But if I had taken the time to write it down and think about it, now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of journalism and just journaling in general. I keep a daily journal. Sometimes it's just, I edited videos today. It's, it's nothing in depth. And then other times I have these massive dreams I had, or shamanic experiences, or a moment I had with deity. And I realize how important that's going to be 5 years from now, when I have completely forgotten everything I did in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You know what? You've inspired me, because I never write my dreams down ever. And it's like one of those things, the more you wake up, the less they start to fade away. And I think it's like that muscle, the more you work at it, the more you can wake up and just write everything down. Then you've captured it before it's faded. I love that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us can actually say we remember a dream from a year ago? But if you actually write it down, you can. I mean, you don't even have to write down the full thing, just a few images from it, and you will remember it. I almost guarantee it.
Yeah, and it is like divination, isn't it? Like I do a lot of the mornings I wake up and I do cards. And yeah, sometimes they make no sense, but if I always write them down, and the situation will come up and I'll go back and I'll be like, yes, like I was warned, I knew something was going to shift or change or whatever, it was there. And I guess you've already mentally prepped, knowing that maybe something's going to happen. Maybe if a circumstance comes up, you should respond in this way or not respond or whatever. So I think, yeah, it is definitely, but it's like a very personal divination, because it's coming from your own mind, isn't it?
Yeah. And to go back to the more directly answer the question as far as like
Yes.
daily rituals, personally, I've gone back and forth over the last few years. And I would say at this point, my practice has become almost entirely seasonal. So I typically only do things around the holidays, the festivals, the events we have in the community. I don't know why it shifted that way. Maybe it's because, I do feel really lucky that every season I am doing something with a group. And not everyone has that. So a lot of people, I feel like, develop those daily rituals because that's all they have. And so they have to have it in order to have some form of spiritual connection.
Totally. And it's a good reminder that you don't have to do something every single day. Like I think, especially when people are starting out, they really almost turn on themselves because, sorry, that's the,
Oh, it's all right.
We have a rabbit and he's running around like a psycho. So just ignore that.
What's it with Australians and rabbits? My best friend who moved to Australia immediately got a rabbit.
Really?
Instantly. Yeah.
It's not a common thing. Not that I'm aware
of the few Australians I've talked to, you all own rabbits.
It is for you. That's funny. But yeah, people really give themselves a hard time because they're like, I need to do this every single day. Otherwise, I'm not a true believer. I'm not a true, I'm not doing my part the way it should be. And I think it's like, sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you just don't have to, I think sometimes you're more called for it because maybe you need something from it. But other times it's like, yeah, it's just there. You just have that belief and that's all you need to really have. You don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Well, and 9 times out of 10, when people message me through email or Instagram, they often just want some form of validation for their experience, which is perfectly
Mm,
understandable. Because when you first start any form of pagan path or spiritual path, you feel like you're crazy because you're like, did
totally.
I just feel that? I really just see two ravens fly above me and I felt something?
Yeah.
And so you go to the internet and you're like, oh, this person saw two ravens.
Yeah.
Let me validate my experience because they felt it too.
Yeah.
And I feel like recently I've gotten really into telling people to share their experiences. Like I say I'm not here to validate your experiences, but get out there and share them so everyone knows every time you see a raven, you feel something because that makes other people
Yeah.
feel good too.
I love that. That's really nice. So can you tell me about how you found Norse paganism? Because you said you weren't always one. So how did it all begin?
Um, yeah, I've told this story quite a few times, and I feel like every time I pick out a different detail that was the most important part.
Hmm.
For the longest time, I would say Buddhism was my gateway, which is interesting.
Mm.
So growing up very Protestant Christian, very Baptist, I was church every Sunday, vacation Bible school. I was in a church play, which I think most people would find really funny, and I just never felt anything.
Yeah.
And so the moment I got freedom and I got out of my parents' household, I just immediately just started exploring religion and exploring world religions, and Buddhism connected to me at most right away. And I was actually reflecting on this not too long ago. Is something that the Dalai Lama said in one of his books was that Buddhism itself is the water of life. Just understanding the basic human ethics, the way
Hmm.
energy works, and then however you flavor your tea is up to you. So everyone needs
Yeah.
water. So it doesn't matter if you have he's like, I'm Tibetan Buddhist, so I flavor my tea as a Tibetan Buddhist would. But you can be, a Christian and still practice Buddhism in some way.
Yeah.
Or in my case, I flavor my tea with mead. But it's what works with me. So I just found the flavor of tea, that works for me, and I think everyone's
Yeah.
going to find a different flavor.
I love that. That's such a good analogy. And I think
As I'm drinking tea right now.
as am I, but it's not mead. I know what yours is.
No, it's definitely not. That would be just absolutely terrible.
I like that because I think often as there are religions that are very like it's our way or no way. And I think that really everyone's connected. I guess it really depends on your belief as well. But for me, I feel like everybody is connected. And yeah, some people just see God as gods or a different label, a different face, but really everybody has a belief system. Even if you don't believe in anything, you still believe in that. And I think that having that water and everyone drinks the same thing, but with a different flavor, it really just, yeah, it brings us all back and says, yeah, we are all here and everyone is allowed to drink what they're drinking, but we all have the same source. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And not to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but one of
Hmm.
the things that has been my kind of determining line for people is, I am fine with everyone's flavor of tea. The only thing that I start, when I start questioning something is when someone's saying my flavor of tea is wrong.
Yeah.
Is such a big sign, and that's something I'm really big on telling people is like, look, you don't have to like the flavor of tea that the Wisdom of Odin makes, and you can have your own flavor of tea and all these things,
Yeah. Don't drink
but
it.
the moment you tell someone, because this is a really big problem. I mean, some people call it gatekeeping, but when someone's like, no, your flavor of tea isn't right, my flavor of tea is right, that's when
Hmm.
everyone should start questioning things.
Totally. And I have no tolerance for that either. I'm just like, I'm literally not sitting here telling you how to live your life or what you should believe or even think. So I really don't need you telling me that either. Like, I respect you as long as you're not like killing anybody or doing anything
Right.
stupid. Like, go for it. I don't give a shit what you believe. So don't care about my life. Like, back it up, man.
Right. And I mean that, bringing it back to like, my Christian background,
Yeah.
I have recently, kind of introduced my mother slowly to it. And, I've started with basic, I go to spiritual retreats. I'm a spiritual person. And then we'll see if she asks questions. But immediately it became, oh, I don't appreciate your flavor of tea because yours is wrong. It immediately just went to that. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but, I appreciate your flavor of tea, Mom, even though if it's a little dusty and crusty.
Um, so when did you find it? When did you find your path? Was there like a moment? Did something happen? Or was it just, did it start off as an interest and then it grew? Like what was it?
I would say it was a feeling because I started researching, looking into the stories and things like that, and started spending time with, talking about deities more.
Hmm.
And, I've told this 1,000 times because it is so prominent because it was so insignificant in the moment in my life is I was waiting tables at a restaurant when I felt a spiritual presence, like
Yeah.
my heart started racing and, like I just felt this sensation come over me. And I kind of got these images of, like fjords and, the northern lights and things like that. And it's like
Mm,
all of my senses were taken over for a moment. And it was so strong that I actually had to like excuse myself and go outside and like take a moment, like what just happened?
yeah.
And considering up to that point, I was very critical of religion, I would say, because I had never had an experience. It definitely opened my eyes to start questioning those experiences.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think often, like, when you are open as well, not to anything in particular, but you just like go, I'm going to open my mind and whatever comes will come. Sometimes it does just come in the weirdest ways, doesn't it? It just like, and especially in really inconvenient places where you're like, I shouldn't be having like a panic attack right now or hallucinating or whatever. But it's just like it really, and I always say this to people, it's like you just have to keep that open mind and embrace whatever way it comes in, because maybe it will be a bird, maybe it will be a, I don't know, a freaking acorn hits you on the head, but for some reason that sparks something, I think, yeah, just having an open mind will just take you on this crazy adventure. Like, look what happened with you.
One of my favorite Buddhist tales, and I learned this pretty late on, about the time I switched over to a more pagan path. It was a story of a Buddhist monk who exiled himself to, meditate daily for enlightenment. And he was up in a mountain, and he meditated every day for like 30 years and never reached enlightenment. And it wasn't until one day he was out chopping wood, and it was the sound of chopping wood that made him reach enlightenment. And
Really?
yeah, so it's like, the simple and mundane, something just
Yeah.
clicked in that moment.
Yeah, it's so funny how it works like that. I love that. And how do you find combine, like, do you combine the two paths together even now in your practice, or would you say now you're more Norse, or is there still bits of both that you put together?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I have a one answer for that. I would definitely say that if someone asked me blankly, what your religion is, I would definitely lean more towards saying I'm still Norse pagan,
Yeah.
just simply because, I work pretty much exclusively with the Nordic deities. But, did Buddhism teach me a lot? Of course. And is that
Hmm.
still, it's part of my story. So it's always going to be a part of my story. And I'll go back and all of a sudden I'll learn something else from it. I still don't shy around away from Buddhist videos or Buddhist books. I've been to Buddhist temples before, and I try to learn something from them.
Yeah.
In fact, while I was in Germany, I visited, it's called East Park, which was a park developed for Eastern cultures and religions. So they had a Shiva temple, they had a Buddhist temple, and all these things. And that was inspiring for me, and it was amazing, and it gave me ideas of my own, and I felt connected to, particularly Odin in that experience.
Hmm.
So to me, it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to separate the two at this point.
I don't think you need to. I think that's just having like such an open mind as well, just being able to like go, yeah, I have one main avenue, but I'm also open to others. It just makes you more of an open-minded person, I think. I don't think you need to just have one belief. I don't feel like there's a rule book. I know some beliefs do, but I think the more open you can be, the more you can understand everybody as well, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the most pure experiences at our recent gathering in Wisconsin, in the United States, we have a gentleman that goes there. He is 100% Christian. I mean, he's
Yeah.
maybe a little bit floating on the Christo-pagan side. He goes
Yeah.
there to support his
He's
wife, but he does.
dabbling.
I mean, he pulls tarot and things like that. But to me, it is the most pure experience that he comes there to support his wife, but he enjoys himself. And
Hmm.
he doesn't push his values on us, and we don't push our values on him. He say, "Hey, if you want to participate in a ritual, you can," and he
Yeah.
has. And he's come participated before. But one evening, him and I were just sitting around a fire, and we were talking about the nature of the universe, and we
Yeah.
all were able to share something with one another in that conversation.
That's so cool. And good on him for being able to do that. Like, what a legend of a husband.
I literally looked at him at one point because they're a little older. I would say they're probably in their 40s. Sorry if they're listening to this and they get offended. I think they're in
I'm
their 40s.
20.
Right. Well, life's been a little hard then.
Yeah.
But at one point, I just looked across the room because he loves food so much, and he was having like a religious experience with these mashed potatoes. And I looked across
Sounds
the
like my
room,
husband.
and I looked across the room, and I was like, you know what? I love you, man. I've never seen someone enjoy mashed potatoes as much as me.
I love that. Now, I wanted to ask you, because obviously Vikings is like such a big deal. I mean, Vikings was our lockdown show. Like in Victoria, where I am, we were in lockdown for, no joke, like 2 years. And so in order for us not to go mental, you had to have some kind of love in your life. And so we started watching Vikings, and it was the best. I was so obsessed with it. But I wanted to know what you thought about it in regards to Norse paganism. Like, obviously as a show it's cool, but I know it's not exactly factual. But do you think that shows like that are a good thing for that belief system or that path? Or do you think they've been a negative? Or do you think maybe they've been a bit of both? Because I know, like, I think it's good that they're bringing awareness to it. And maybe there are a lot of people that didn't know, like they felt something, but now they had more of an idea of what it was they believed, and that gave them that avenue. But then I know I've also seen things like, you know, there's like groups on Facebook where someone's like, I'm a Norse pagan and I got this tattoo and it's this symbol. Can you tell me what it is? And you go, dude, don't get a tattoo of something you don't even understand, but call yourself a Norse pagan. So I can kind of see like how it can be a good thing and a bad thing, but what are your thoughts on it?
So I will say I do have a video that I made right before the new series came out. It's like 25 minutes long, and exploring misconceptions created by that show. And this has a really in-depth conversation. So I recommend anyone that actually wants to know more about that, definitely check out that video, because I explore a lot of these concepts a lot more in depth.
I'll link it for everyone.
Yeah. Honestly, I really like that video, and I took a hike, and it's a beautiful day and all this stuff. So it's a great video.
Nice.
But what I kind of came to the conclusion is, like, I understand why some people are very negative towards the Vikings TV show, but at the end of the day, it brought, like you said, so much awareness to the faith that I can't help but, congratulate it in that aspect, especially the earlier seasons. I'm very critical of the later seasons in the show because I definitely think it went too Hollywood. But that first season, it has an entire episode devoted to Uppsala and the religious beliefs of the Viking people.
That was
and
so beautiful as well.
And that was influential for me because I think that came out in 2013. That was a couple years before I started my path officially. And I remember watching that and feeling something. Again, it was like it wasn't a full religious experience, but it was that chill on the back of my neck I didn't understand, of seeing that and understanding that the world used to be different. Totally. I think was the biggest thing. Now, was it exactly 100% what I was watching on the screen? Of course not, because we can't do that. But at the same time, it was something similar. We know they had a temple at Uppsala. We know they had ceremonies and rites similar to that. So just being able to see it play live action like that was very inspiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it, I think the top popular term, I don't know where it started, people like to say is like brosatru, I think is what people like to say. When it comes to the Viking bros, the people that come from Vikings, and they're like glory of Valhalla all the time. And and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't condone them for it, because we've had people come into like our Discord community and stuff like that, and they're so gun-ho, and it's like, we're so glad you're passionate, but also we don't blood equal people here.
No, it's illegal.
Yeah, and and we've had people come and they mature. We've had many people in the community I look at now and I see how far they've come because we did allow them to go through those infant moments that we all go through, and they don't say glory of Valhalla anymore. They're not blood bros. But then we do have people that get upset. They're like, no, this isn't what I expected, and so there is that negative.
They wanted the drama.
Yeah, they wanted what Vikings TV show created. They wanted the blood, the boobs, and the battles. And it's just not like that,
That's so funny. And I guess that a good way to look at it as well is that the people that do come in and they're all like, yes, I'm a Norse pagan. It's even like with witches, people do this all the time. Like, I'm so passionate and I know exactly what I'm going to do, and this is how it is. And then in like 2 weeks, they're gone. And so I guess you can kind of go, like, give them their moment, as long as they're not coming in and like insulting anybody, let them have their thing, and they'll probably just continue to move on and find someone else.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us is the only time we get a little bit snippy about it is during ritual time.
Of
Like if we're
course.
actually at a gathering, we're having a ritual because we've had it's been a long time, but in our infancy of coming these having these gatherings, we would have some people that would just be so aggressive about just shouting Odin's name. Like you're sitting there trying to do like an invocation, do something really nice, and they're just like
Mm.
Odin, they're like that, and it's like okay, I'm glad you're passionate, but like let's calm down. And so since then, we've kind
Down a
of
little bit.
had precursors where we're like, look, we're glad you're passionate, but please be respectful. We don't ask people to be, solemn during these times, but read
Mm.
the room,
Yeah. That's so funny. So I know, I think maybe also going back to, like you said, that you grew up in a very religious family. How do you and how did you deal with judgment from people? Because witches get this all the time. And I know a lot of people don't want to come out and say, this is who I am, because there's so much judgment, misconception. People just have very closed-minded views. So how do you, even to this day, deal with people, especially family or friends, if they have a judgment about your belief? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so this might not be, there's no one universal answer for this,
Mm,
but I have been very lucky in that I've received little to no negative criticism in person over my religious beliefs.
mhm.
But I would say it's also because I don't force it on other people.
Yeah.
I'm fairly private in which is ironic considering I run a public YouTube page about it. But I have my Mjolnir on, and that's about it. I
Mhm.
go about my day. I've given offerings in public places before, and I make sure it doesn't interfere with anyone else's lives. And if they ask me questions about it, I would gladly answer them. But I've never had anyone come up to me and judge me wrongly for it. Now, it could be an anxiety thing that when we do sit down to give an offering out in a park or something like that, we always think like, oh, is someone watching me? Is someone thinking something negative? But
Yeah.
just fuck those people. Move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's easy for me to say because I've shown my face online a lot, and I've gotten used to doing things publicly. But at
Mm,
the same time, I feel like if we don't, and when I say we, I just mean pagans in general, alternative spiritualities, as long as we don't force other people to conform to just loving us, and we
mm,
understand that just accepting who we are, I think that's the nice middle ground.
yeah.
And again, I've done this. I've just not forced it on anybody, and I've received no negative feedback.
Yeah.
And once again, I read the room. With my mother, it's been a long process. If I went up to my 85-year-old grandmother and said, "I'm a Norse pagan, accept me," is she going to do it? No. But no one would. If we grab someone and say, "Accept me,"
Yeah. It's like
it
pick your
doesn't work.
battles.
Yeah, but with my grandfather on my father's side, it's been a slow process. Again, over the years, I've dropped little hints, and it turns out he's been actually really into shamanism for almost his entire life. And
Mm,
and he's kind of kept it to himself, but once he realized that I was kind of going down that path too, we started talking about it. So I think it's just one of those things where ease people into it, drop little hints here and there and see if they pick up. But yeah, don't grab your 85-year-old grandmother and make her conform to your beliefs.
yeah, it can be a little bit aggressive.
Right, yeah, like let them be old.
Because you'll probably tell them and then they'll go, what did he say? Like,
Oh,
nah, damn it.
there is no, I could honestly tell her every detail of an Odin ritual, and she'd be like, well, that's nice. Because it just doesn't even comprehend, like, to a woman who only knew the Southern Baptist churches their entire life, there's just nothing else.
Yeah,
And
that is
I just don't
life.
expect her to realize there's anything else.
Well, that's it. You're basically asking to like rewire somebody's brain. Like maybe a middle-aged person, they should be more open. I guess the more we go into this life, the more the generations are exposed to everything. But yeah, if you go back, they're very in their box, and you just pick your battles. Is it worth having a fight about it? No, no one's
Right.
going to achieve anything.
And again, I should say, I've had plenty of people message me and have very, very serious fears about being kicked out of the house and things like that.
Yeah.
If you're in that kind of situation, I don't recommend bringing in a bombshell like paganism. Hello, Kat.
Oh, hello.
She always likes to show herself for podcasts. Especially people who, don't have their own independence.
Yes.
Ultimately, if you're under the roof of your parents, as long as they treat you with some amount of respect, I would say treat them with respect as well.
Mm.
And then once you get out of into your own life, into your own experience, then you start practicing your own way. You start having that altar space. You start giving those offerings more frequently.
So would you say then for the people that are stuck in their environment to just do it in private then, like just take your beliefs and do it in your own space rather than let someone else's opinion seep in?
Yeah, and another just again, I shoot advice at the wall to see, hopefully it helps some person out there because again, every situation is going to be different. But another thing that I've seen that works really well is you just do it and you don't give it a name. You don't say I'm a Norse pagan. You just like while you're out on a walk with your family, you have an apple and you're just like, oh, I'll be right back. You walk into the woods, you leave it at a tree, you say thank you, and you walk away.
Yeah,
and your mom's
right.
like, what were you doing there? Well, just giving an apple to the tree. Go about your day, a jolly walk away. And she's probably never going to say anything about it.
Yeah, true. That's a good way of looking at it as well. Because I think if you did say like, I'm going to give an offering because I believe in blah, 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 they'd be like, okay.
Well, and honestly, I've done this when I hike because, I'm really into the hiking community here in Kentucky. And so I think I've gotten a reputation on the trails I frequent as the guy that does give offerings and like leads people around because I'm always there with groups. And I treat people like they're dumb for not knowing just for fun. So I'm in the middle, just recently we had like 13 people on this hike and I was standing in the middle of a winter stream with a bottle of mead, like calling to the gods as a family walked by and they were all just looking at us and they were like, what are you doing? I'm like, giving an offering to Odin. What are you doing? I'm like, you haven't done this today.
That's so funny. Play with their minds. So the rest of their walk, they're going, should we be doing that? Are we missing something?
Am I dumb for not doing this?
I've
done full like shamanic based rituals in public parks. And again, I don't acknowledge it. I've had people stop by, they take pictures. I usually have someone like almost like a handler, I guess, kind of watching me. Like I'll bring a friend to kind of, if they have questions. Handler, yeah. Because, especially if I'm doing a really in-depth, shamanic-based ritual, I don't like being disturbed because it's kind of part of the process.
Yeah.
And so, I usually bring my friend Casey, and she kind of runs diversion for me. If someone's like, what's going on up there? And she'll answer questions and stuff. But again, no negative feedback. People are always like, that's really cool. And then they just go about their life.
You know what, though? I reckon it's like one of those things where, if you're like at a party and someone puts music on and there's that one person that goes and just starts dancing and you're like, yeah, good on them. I'm going to start dancing too because they just don't give a shit. They're just like, this is what I'm doing, full confidence. And people respect that. I think often the people that judge it, there's more of an issue of them and their own shit than the person who's doing anything. So I think majority of the time people will probably look at someone like that and go, I respect them for having that complete confidence in what they're doing.
Yeah. And, if I had any, I don't have any children yet, but if I had any, advice for them if they wanted to do something strange, if you're going to do something, just do it with confidence and no one can ever really judge you.
Just
and it won't
commit.
affect you. Yeah.
Totally. I agree. And what do you think about when people say that you can only be a Norse pagan if you're from Scandinavia?
So that's an interesting dilemma. I don't know if there's one, again, with anything, there's no one right answer there, but the only thing I can say is I have a wonderful community of people from all walks of life that all legitimately have experiences. And so if they can have experiences, why can't everyone else? Like one of our community leaders, I really hate, speaking for them in any way, he's Native American and he's Black. And he is the most Vanir focused person I know. And he's in the military as well. So he's about to go deploy, to fight for a year in Kuwait. And we did like a warrior ritual for him, calling to Odin and all these things. And it's like, it was such a powerful experience. And so I look at experiences like that. And again, it's like anyone who says that, I treat them like they're dumb. Again, almost like the offering in the stream. I just had this amazingly powerful experience with a man who I don't know if he has Scandinavian heritage, but
Mm,
does that make it any less real?
no.
And so I think that, that's the answer I always go to is the experiences I've had with people who clearly, or, at the very least, I don't know they have any Scandinavian heritage. I mean, shoot, I don't even know if I have Scandinavian heritage.
Mm. I don't even think it matters. Like I remember seeing, I think it was like some witches page, and they were talking about, basically they were just slagging off other people, saying like, they're, I think it might even have been Norse, like they were working with Norse deities, and like, how you can't do that, like you're Australian, you can't follow them, you can't worship them, you can't work with them, it doesn't make any sense, like you're not allowed to do that. And I was like, why? Like why does it have to be so only Norse can work with Norse, only, people with Greek heritage can work with Greek gods? Like there is no rule book. And I think sometimes they find you for a reason. And, it could be, maybe it's a past life thing. Maybe it's a deep, deep, deep heritage thing. Maybe it's just because there's a quality about you that connects with it. And I think like feeling like you can't connect with something because it's not your heritage or origin or whatever, I think that's bull. I honestly just think sometimes things find you because they were meant to find you.
So again, there's so many different avenues we can go with this conversation, and I tend to stick to experiences because I feel like that's what I've built the channel on, and my platform on is my personal experiences and the experience of others. But I will say, the thing that becomes complicated is if a Native American tribe doesn't want others to practice their form of spirituality, do we judge them? True. And that's where it becomes mucky, just because I have to respect that.
Totally.
So. It's hard. It's a hard conversation.
It is hard.
But at the same time, there's a really great movie. I think it's called The Dream Keeper or The Dream Catcher. That comes from like the 90s, and it was made by a huge set of native tribes here in America. And it's a series of short stories as a older grandfather travels with his young grandson to a powwow, and he's instilling knowledge. And so this whole thing is, created by the Native community to share these stories again. And one of the stories they share is of this like very clearly like very white, red-headed Irish guy that comes to a powwow, and he's like, "What's up, my brothers? I found out I'm 164th Native American." And the young, and the younger, the grandson is like, "Oh, look at this guy, this pretender, this poser." And the grandfather says, just because he's very excited, he's 164th, that's not what matters. What matters is that he respects what we believe in, and we can teach him.
Absolutely, yes.
And so again, you get two opposite ends of the spectrum there. And I'm sure there are people in the Native community that say, no, this is for us. And there's people that say, no, they want to learn from us. And those forces are fighting all across the world right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to say who's right and who's wrong.
That's really true. And I guess that, the more there are those people that it is about respect, they just want to learn because something about that way of life really resonates with them, and they do respect, and there's nothing negative from them at all. So I guess from their point, it is sad because it's like, all I want to do is respect your culture. But I do understand the flip side of that. And you're right, it's a tricky point. But I think, yeah, if you're doing it and you're doing it in a respectful way, you're not trying to insult anybody, that's all you can really do. And you shouldn't judge somebody for doing that, I don't think.
Right. And then another, like really pure experience I've had is something that we do with like the Native community around here, as far as like Serpent Mounds here in Ohio. We recently visited there, and they have like Serpent Mounds is a native like petroglyph in the shape of a snake that's thousands of years old. It's really fascinating. It's and as a child, I never respected it, but now I look at it and I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's almost like 3,000 years old, and we don't know why, but it aligns with the equinoxes and the solstices.
Ugh, history's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They just knew shit back then.
Oh, yeah. And and I look at that, and I'm like, what about all the, just like around the world, we all have this connection to the solstices and the equinoxes.
I know.
No matter what your history, no matter what your skin color, we all love it. And so that's what I try to connect to, is let's come together on those things that we all honor. And I think that's why I've been going down the shamanic path, because every culture in the world on every continent has some form of shamanism, and they
Mm.
all almost feel and experience the same thing. And that is
Mhm.
so fascinating to me.
Oh, it is. All that stuff. It can, like, I could literally sit and talk about that stuff for ages. And like, we watch shows about, like Stonehenge and all the different placements around the world and how they're all like lined up. And my brain, I just, anyway, I can feel a rant, but I won't go there.
Yeah, right. Oh man,
Um,
like I was recently at I stayed at one of our community members' house on the way up to the Wisconsin gathering, and all they wanted to do was watch Ancient Aliens and talk
yeah.
about like all these like old world, like the pyramids around the world, and I'm sitting there like my brain hurts.
Seriously, it's because it just doesn't make sense. But then it would have made sense. See, it's blowing my brain now. I can't like physically think about it too much because it's like you go, no.
That's
No.
why I just hug trees. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. No, tell me, how did your channel start? Like, what was the prompt for you to begin, and what did you want to get from it?
Yeah, so I would say, because at the time I started the channel, I had been practicing about 3 years, I would say. And, I of course looked on YouTube and all these things. And, I did my research into the various groups, at some degree. But it seemed like everyone was so closed off. No one
Yeah.
wanted to talk to one another. No group wanted you in for this, that, or the other thing. And, I think I was a part of one Facebook group, but anything you posted, they just, said you were wrong right away and then just made you feel like shit. And so I started thinking like, okay, I don't like this. Can I add something to this world? And I really noticed there was a void in people showing you their experiences, showing an offering, showing a
Mm.
ritual. And so that's what I really started my channel on, was I want to show my experiences so others can see them, can see.
Yeah.
And again, it's that whole am I crazy thing. If
Yeah.
you just have someone sitting here in front of a screen saying, here is how you give an offering point by point, that doesn't show that it's
No.
real. And so even though I made mistakes, and even though I failed some rituals, or I did things wrong, at least I showed it, and at least others can learn from my mistakes as well.
Mhm.
And now I think really what the Wisdom of Odin stands for, if you go back and you watch that first video and you see how dumb it is, you see that my camera is out of focus, you see that I was just so excitable again, I just come off basically no knowledge, and coming off the Vikings TV show and all these things, and just having this base understanding, and then watching my content now and seeing how far it's come, seeing the rituals we're performing now.
The growth
That's what
that
I
you've
think.
had.
Yeah, and I think, that's what's really going to be the most visible in 10 years, if I, hopefully continue to do this. Is like,
Mm.
holy shit, here he was pouring mead into a tree, 5 years ago, and now here he is doing this complex Odin ritual where you climb the world tree, and you're doing all these
Yeah.
crazy things, and everyone's screaming and hollering and have a good time. It's that growth, and I really wanted to show my growth through the channel so other people can grow too.
Yeah, cool. And it also gives people who are starting, they can start with you at the beginning of your journey and kind of like work alongside with you. And they don't have to just jump to the very end and go, holy shit, I should be doing all this right now. They can go, no, 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 this is where he began. And the things that he was thinking and feeling are normal. And I am right to feel that too. I love that. And I think like one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing as well is to normalize stuff, to just because
Yeah.
people do have that misconception that there's all the drama that, like for mine, it's witches standing around a cauldron turning kids into rats or whatever, and you go, no,
You don't do that?
I only do it sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's the Thursday thing.
Yeah,
right?
Well, every second Thursday. But it's like, a lot of these faiths are just very nature based. They're very seasonal. It's, experiencing what's happening outside your window. And when people can see that, they go, oh, I think I've been doing some of that without even realizing it. And I think, just normalizing stuff is very freeing for people.
Yeah, and back to like what you're saying about like witches turning people into toads and whatnot. It's the same thing with heathenry, Norse paganism. People think that we go around giving blood offerings all the time and having human sacrifices and all these things. And it's just like, it's so different than that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really like most of my offerings are just me and my friends in a drum circle at this point.
So how I saw you've started the gathering. Can you tell me what that is? We'll tell everybody what that is.
Yeah, so sorry, I feel like I need more light over here. It's finally getting dark. There we go. So the gathering started once again from this need of community, because there's so many of these Facebook groups. I mean, Facebook groups in particular, they always seem to do a lot of talking and not a lot of gathering. And this was before COVID. They didn't seem to do anything. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about paganism. That's fine, but let's go do it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
No one seemed to be doing it. So it came from that necessity. I was like, well, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And, so I just put out I had 1,000 subs at the day, and this was like 2019. I put it out to the world and I said, hey, let's get together. And 9 people answered the call. We got together and, it was great. It was amazing. And it just blew up from there. Oh my gosh, I think we've had near 40 gatherings now since then. And we just formalized the organization in January as a nonprofit. And so we're getting our feet wet as that. There's 20 people that run the organization with me now. And we've kind of just figured things out as we go. And it's definitely set up a lot different than a lot of the more modern Asatru groups. We believe in simplicity. It's about the gods, it's about the folk, and it's about the spirits. As long as you put those 3 things above yourself, your friend and folk is us is kind of the saying. And so we really focus on honoring those 3 things at every gathering, those who came before and who are with us now with the folk.
Yeah. And
then, the spirits of the land, which is really big here in the United States. And we've gotten really close to like native spirits, because if you're doing something here in the United States, you're dealing with native spirits almost all the time.
Absolutely.
And so they're very different than spirits in like Europe. And so learning how to work with them in a way that is, coexisting is amazing. Like the last time we gave an offering to the land spirits, literally the moment after we poured out the last drink, a coyote like howled at the top of its lungs during and it was during a full moon too. And it's like, we're doing this right.
That's so cool. What an amazing confirmation that they heard you.
Yeah, so we're really focused on real experiences, like real in-person experiences, just to get people outside, get people out in the real world, and having real human connections is really our main focus.
Yeah, cool. And so how many people do you get now?
So like right now we have 7 gatherings in the works right now, each with 20 to 30 people at each one. And then like the one we have this weekend is in Ohio, and it's 35 people. So, I would say it's 80% have been to gatherings before, 20% people, it's their first time. So yeah, we really just kind of focus on the individual gatherings. We typically have them around the solstices and the equinoxes.
Yeah.
And and I, probably have, I'm trying to think how many states we have at this point with people. It's probably like 10 states have people in them as far as like leaders. And we're having our first international gathering in the Netherlands this year, and then in the United Kingdom as well.
That's so cool. How does that feel, knowing that like you started from this like tiny little thing and now it's just like growing and expanding to the world?
That is why my lesson for this year for myself is gratitude.
Totally.
Like I set that intention. I was like, this year I'm focusing on how crazy this is and how thankful I am for the experience.
Yeah. And like for you to look back at your first video and go, oh, I was stuffing that up. That didn't make any sense. That looks weird. And then look where you are now. Like imagine if you told yourself then, if you keep going, amazing things are on the way for you. Like how cool.
Oh yeah. And I think I always had the dream of that happening. I think I mentioned in my 3rd video, I was like, how cool would it be if we like got together, guys? It would be so much fun. And now here I am actually doing it. Right. Yeah. And I recently did like a revisit video, because I was going back in my older videos and I noticed that I was just like, that was the first time I had ever mentioned like, we should have a hall. And now we're actually talking about it. I'm like, this is crazy.
So cool. I love that. Now, we talked about the morning. Do you have an evening ritual?
I would say for the most part, I don't have many daily rituals. I will say I perform if I do have a ritual at the home, I typically do it at night, just out of necessity, I think. So the only thing I do now for myself is I practice my spirit walking, my shamanic practices, just when I feel the calling.
Yep.
Like if I have that urge, I have that sensation that I need to do it. I'll sit down and I'll do a drum trance for a while, and I kind of just sit down, light incense, light candles, and really let myself. It's more of a meditation, I would say, than it is an actual ritual or anything like that.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so before we finish, I have 5 fire round questions for you.
Whew.
And these are like the really deep and meaningful ones.
Oh, fuck. Again, gerbils with explosives on it. That's number 1.
All right, first one. Is there a movie you could watch 1,000 times and never get sick of?
The Grand Budapest Hotel has nothing to do with paganism.
No, that's fine. It doesn't have to. It can be anything.
Okay, yeah.
These are open.
Oh yeah, no, Grand Budapest Hotel, 100%. I'll watch it.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, I am a little bit of a film snob. I'm not gonna lie, and so I really like artsy films.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, it's good. It's good.
All right, I'll check it out. A book that's changed your life.
Myths and Symbols in Pagan Europe. So that is a pagan one. That is the first book. I actually, that was the first book I ever read. It wasn't the Poetic Edda. So that was it. If I push it so hard on my channel, if you watch my content or if you enjoyed this podcast, Myths and Symbols in Pagan Europe by H.R. Ellis Davidson, amazing book. Beautiful.
Is there an animal that you have a close connection with? And it could be a real animal or just a type of animal, but it's up to you.
My community members will appreciate this. It's a turkey.
Really?
So, yeah. So I don't know if you know, in like the Norse idea or Norse paganism, there's the idea of a fylgja, which is essentially a spirit animal, a power animal, essentially.
Yeah.
And I know it was legitimate when I first encountered it in my experiences, because there's no way I would choose a turkey on my own choice.
No. Do you know, once I was doing this class and it was all about psychic development, and you connected with your spirit animal that was like your guide that would take you through meditation and all of that. And I was so lucky because I got a reindeer, and I was like, fuck yeah, that's a cool animal. So but there's one person, they got a dung beetle. I was like,
those poor things.
Dude, don't say that. At least lie.
Right.
Okay. Is there a place that you could travel to right now? Like, where would it be in the whole world?
Oh, probably Iceland.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it happen. It's just so expensive.
It's so bloody beautiful. I look at pictures of it all the time. It's like, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. All right, last question. What does happiness look like for you?
Oh, I would say this goes to my love for hygge and like the Danish idea of happiness is, to me, happiness is a quiet evening with some candles and a fireplace, the people you love, board games, books, good music, and just conversation. And honestly, that's the best part about the gatherings, is almost every single one, that's what you end up with.
I love it. That sounds pretty good to me. Thank you so much. Now, where can everybody find you? Now, tell us all your secrets.
Right, yeah. So all my secrets, my OnlyFans is Frere's Findings. No. So the best place to find me at, if you actually want to have a conversation, is Instagram at the Wisdom of Odin. YouTube is where most of my content is made these days. So that's just the Wisdom of Odin on YouTube. And then we have started our community with a nonprofit. So if you want to know, interested in the gatherings or what we're doing there, it's just www.northerntraditions.org. And that's how you find our community, which is probably the main thing I'm focused on at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming today. It was an absolute pleasure. You're a legend.
No, it was great. I appreciate us working out the time, considering we're 24 hours apart, or where the hell it is.
I know, we did it.
Right.
Thank you. And I will link everything that you just said below. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Well, there you go. What an episode. Like I said, we really just covered surface stuff there. There is so much to talk about. when it comes to this topic, and so much to learn. And if you are keen to learn more, I definitely suggest checking out Jacob's YouTube channel, The Wisdom of Odin. There's just so much information on there, and he really knows what he's talking about. So yeah, check it out. Learn more, fill your brain, and we'll get him back and we'll chat some more about this topic, because I just absolutely love it. So thank you so much for joining once again. I really appreciate all your support. If you want to connect with me, you can find me in all the usual places. That is Wick and Sage on Instagram and Facebook. You can also watch this episode over on YouTube, and that would be under Rosethorne Cottage. Or if you want, you can come and hang out with me and my Patreon gang at Patreon. And that's under Rosethorne Cottage as well. And we're actually planning on having our own little Yule Zoom party soon, which is going to be so fun. We can swap Yule stories and get to know each other a little bit more, and it's a really beautiful group. So if you're definitely looking for a little bit more magic in your life, check that out. But otherwise, have a beautiful week. Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.